some fairly ugly divorces in my extended family. My parents, they're in their mid 80s and are still happily married, but I've had other family members that really had devastating divorces, so much so that there's some cousins, I don't even know where they are. They had to split away from the family, and the pain is still there. And this is
Welcome to Rising Above Shadows of Abuse. Raza! I'm your host, Grace Opa. Our guest today, Dr. Lee Balcom. How are you
thank you so
today?
much. Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So, let's start the ball rolling. What to helping first led you to dedicate your life? Individuals and couples heal wounds that quietly threaten their well-being.
Most of the time when people are coaches or therapists, I'm a coach now, but I was trained as a therapist. It's because they found that they were doing that anyway. They were naturally doing that. I was not the popular teen. I was the confidant teen. People would come to me and tell me what was going on in their life, and that continued on. And so I knew I wanted to be a therapist. Now, looking back, I realized that one of the things that inspired me to focus more on couples and relationships and family relationships is watching the impact some fairly ugly divorces in my extended family. My parents, they're in their mid 80s and are still happily married, but I've had other family members that really had devastating divorces, so much so that there's some cousins, I don't even know where they are. They had to split away from the family, and the pain is still there. And this is decades and decades later. So because of that, I think it led me to want to find some ways of helping people, even as I was aware that the way that most marriage therapy was being done was not particularly helpful, which is why I switched from therapy to coaching.
Thank you. So that's a little nugget about who you are as a person, as a therapist, not really a therapist, as a life coach, so to speak, or marriage cancer coach, so to speak.
I often talk about being a recovering therapist, that I've left that behind. But in reality, I always functioned more as a coach. When I started, this was back in the mid 90s when I was finishing up my PhD, I realized reading an article that I was already changing how I did things. And so, yeah, I call myself a marriage coach and left the therapy world behind a while back now.
Thank you so much for that. So after decades in this work, what keeps you committed to lifting people who feel lost or unseen?
So what's interesting to me, individual counseling is something that I was also trained in and I enjoyed doing, but it didn't bring me the same satisfaction because I saw the impact of family life on individuals, how that impacted them, on their children, on the community. And so it seemed to me that what most people would say in their adulthood is the most important relationship in their life, their spousal relationship, their marriage, that could transform a lot the struggles in life. If you feel like you've got this person on your team, right? You're partnered up with this person and you can go through the difficulties of life, that'll get you a lot of the way towards health. I also realized that a lot of times people doing individual work were getting good at naming why they were doing what they were doing, but it wasn't changing what they were doing. And so I wanted to find some ways of helping people actually change how they were in relationship and change who they were as individuals. My other kind of carve out place of expertise is how to help people to thrive. I call myself the world's first thrivologist because I made up the term. So I help people to also find a way to thrive. And many times the path through thriving is through difficult times in our life where we kind of build those muscles rather than getting stuck in the labels, I'm a victim or I was stuck.
So I do agree with what you've said, because as an individual, your healing needs to take place before you can meet up with another individual. So if you're not healed, this tends to be codependency, which is quite unhealthy in relationships.
So codependency has been a term that has unfortunately lost a lot of its original meaning. And so we get it confused with a lot of other things. And so I always draw this distinction. So there's independence, which is a problem in relationships where you're just like, I'll take care of myself and I am on my own and I've got to deal with this. Then there are those who get lost in the relationship, and that is codependence. But there's also a space that sometimes is confusing for people, which is what a marriage is at its best, of interdependence. We have some independence in our own identity, but we also also have some dependence on each other for how this all fits together, and that's interdependence. And for some people, that's hard to tease out. People who come with unresolved issues, and the fact is, if you're an adult, you have some unresolved issues. That's the nature of life. And so we drag that into the relationship. But if we can take on the fact that as we encounter those places of unhealth, if we commit to that, then we can work through how that fits into a marriage, how it fits into life.
Thank you.